everybody for attending. I want to just introduce myself quickly, and then as we go through, everybody will introduce themselves. So my name is Morgan Miller. I am one of the admissions advisors here at Niagara University. My territory consists of Syracuse, the North Country, and Western Massachusetts, and a few schools around the area. And first, we're going to start off with a current student, Kelsey. She's just going to talk to you guys a little bit. She will be jumping off because she actually does have to go to class. But students who are in here, if you guys could please put in the chat box your first and last name and your high school, that would be awesome. And then also too, if you guys do have any questions moving forward, please feel free to add them to the chat box, and then we'll have a question and answer session at the end. So without further ado, Kelsey, if you'd like to go.
Yeah, so my name is Kelsey Rohde. I am a graduate from Lockport High School, and then I went to NCCC for my associate's degree. I started with liberal arts, and then I transferred to Niagara, and I was a double major, communications and theater, but I'm now a full-time communications major. I'm a senior. Yeah, I think that's about the summary of my education process so far.
Awesome. And then Kelsey also is now interning in our office for some marketing. So we really are excited to see where she can go with all of this.
Yeah. So right now I'm kind of working with Cassie to schedule posts, write social media posts, and then I will be working kind of getting my package together to go out into the real world in May.
Awesome. Well, thanks, Kelsey. All right, guys, now I'm going to share my screen here, and we are going to get started with our little showcase. Sorry, it's just taking me a few minutes. Alrighty, can everyone see that?
Yep.
Okay. So now I'm going to give it over to Carrie, and she is going to start. And if you guys could please introduce yourselves and, you know, give your little spiel about yourself, that would be great too.
Okay, sounds great. Thanks so much, Morgan, and thanks, Kelsey, for joining us. Kelsey is one of our best students. She's just a joy to have in the classroom. So thank you, Kelsey. We appreciate it. I'm Dr. Carrie Teresa, and I'm Associate Professor and Department Chair of Communication and Media Studies here at Niagara University. And so for today's showcase, we have a few things on the agenda. The first thing I'm going to talk about is CMS at a glance. I'm going to give you guys an idea of what our department looks like, what we specialize in, and what our faculty can offer to you. Next, Dr. Barner is going to offer you a tour live from our production facilities. So he is on campus, and he will give you guys a sense of the kinds of equipment that we have for students to use. Then I'll talk about clubs and organizations. My colleague, Dr. Joe Cirianni, will talk about Internship Opportunities, which he's very, very involved in setting up and promoting to students. Dr. Tewksbury will then talk about research opportunities, and Dr. Tewksbury is very much a hands-on teacher scholar when it comes to research. He loves to mentor students in the research process, and he has some exciting stories to share from those experiences. And then we'll talk about whatever questions you guys might have for us, whether they are about the department, the things that we offer, what we do for students, how we approach the art of teaching, or anything about student life. Morgan or Kelsey can certainly chime in and offer some insight on. So feel free to ask any questions you like. As questions pop up, you can just pop them in the chat, and we'll be sure to address them before the end of the session. All right, communication studies at a glance. So as a professor, I specialize in teaching journalism, political communication, and media law courses here at NU. We have 4 major areas of study because, as you know, communication is a huge field. It's a huge discipline. We specialize in film studies, journalism, public relations, and production. And the idea is to train students to be critical media consumers of these 4 sort of, kinds of media. but also to be future content producers as well. Each of these 4 specialties has a media literacy component. So we teach students how to read and be critical of media, of the media that they consume, and then a production component so that if you guys are future filmmakers or you're future PR professionals or future journalists, you go into the field with practical experience to get the great job that you hope for. We have over 40 course offerings that are active, so our courses rotate beyond just our requirements. We are often creating new courses based on our current students' interests or changes in the media landscape or in the discipline itself. So the curriculum is growing and changing all the time, along with the trends that you guys are experiencing as just sort of personal media users. We have 4 student media organizations, which I'll talk about in a second. We have a study abroad program in London that Dr. Barner actually started a few years ago. So if anybody has any questions about study abroad, Dr. Barner and Dr. Cirianni, who has also sort of co-chaperoned trip, can answer those questions at the end. We're a relatively big department for a small school, which means that we have 60 plus majors, but that doesn't mean that your classes will be any larger than they would in any other major here at NU. We cap our classes at 35, but more than likely you'll be in classes as small as 15 to 20, and production courses will be even smaller than that. They average in size from about 10 to 15 students. So even though we're a big department, we as faculty teach enough courses and have a part-time faculty roster to be able to keep your class sizes as small as possible. Speaking of our part-time faculty, we have a roster from local media agencies that give hands-on actual industry level training. They help students get internships, they help students network. They're often a bridge between students' work on campus, in class, and in their organizations to internships and then future jobs. So we're very proud of the part-time faculty that we have working for our department, in addition to the 4 of us. At this point, I can throw it over to Dr. Barner, who can talk a little bit about our production studio. Dr. Barner?
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Welcome, everyone. I'm glad you could be with us tonight. So as Dr. Teresa said, my name is Mark Barner. I'm an associate professor in the Communication and Media Studies department here at NU. I'll tell you a little bit about myself, some of the stuff I teach, and then I am in our television studio. Actually, I'm in the control room right now, so I can flip my camera around and give you a very quick tour so you can kind of see what's going on. So I teach primarily production-oriented courses. So I teach our Intro to Digital Media, which is a freshman level course. So all students would get that coming in. And then I teach our video production course, which again is another required course. And then beyond that, I've also taught our advanced production. I've taught our sports broadcasting. I teach a film course, film and culture. And I've taught journalism. So I've taught a little bit of everything. One thing I wanted to mention is that even if, as Dr. Teresa said, communication is such a wide field, there's so many different directions you can go in. We get a lot of students who come in and they know they're interested in media and communication, but they don't know exactly what focus they want to take. So I would encourage you to try a little bit of everything, right? Including production. I get students who don't think they're interested in the hands-on production side of things, but then once they give it a try, they find out they really like it, right? So I would encourage you to do that. And I know Dr. Teresa is going to talk a little bit more about some of the club opportunities, the extracurricular opportunities. So make sure you take advantage of all those. Same thing with internships. Make sure you take advantage of internships. That's a great way to test out something that you're not sure you like, or even if you don't think you like. Again, I've had students do internships, and then come back and say they really liked it, right? And they never would have known that unless they had kind of tested the waters with an internship. So I'll tell you what, I'm going to switch my camera around if I can. There we go. I'll try not to make you too seasick here. So I'm currently in Dunleavy Hall, which is where our television studio facilities are. And we use this space as a classroom. So you would have some classes in here. It's also used for some of the clubs. So they have access to this, whether it's the video production club, or again, we have the ESPN broadcasting, which uses this to do live sportscasts. So various pieces of equipment. I'm not going to go over everything, but just give you a quick kind of run through. So in class or in a club, you may be doing anything from running a teleprompter, creating graphics for various shows. Over here we have the instant replay and slow-mo. So again, for sportscasts, we'd have someone there, you know, whenever a play happens, they can rewind it, cue it up, and then replay it, slow it down. And by the way, fun fact, as I was setting up today, I thought it would be nice to turn everything on to kind of show you guys. And as soon as I did, I got a call from the basketball arena wondering why their big screens just came on. And I kind of got in a little trouble, but then I explained why I wanted the screens on, and then they were cool with it. So they're actually over there practicing right now, wondering why they're seeing highlights of themselves. They're probably standing there watching. So anyways, we have our switcher, which is where the technical director and the director would be. We have our audio operator. So you would be in charge of controlling microphones, bringing up and down music, and anything that's audio related. Right next door to the control room, we have our actual studio space, which is a bit of a mess right now. I actually had a student in here working this afternoon, shooting some interview footage. And so one nice thing, again, this is used as a classroom. It's used for clubs, but it can also be used just for students who need to do a project. So the student that was in here today, I'm not sure exactly what he was doing, but it was a personal project that he's working on. So once you've taken some of the intro classes, you can get access to the space and work on, you know, whatever you need to work on. So that's kind of nice. And I tell students that that's typically something that you wouldn't really get at a large school because it's so competitive to get access to facilities. But at a school like NU, which is a smaller school, right from your very first semester, you would have access to this stuff, right? So we need all the help we can get in our clubs and doing our broadcasts. So if you have an interest, again, right from the very first semester, you could jump in, right? So let me switch around. All right. So if you have any questions on any of the production-oriented stuff, feel free to let me know, right? You'll have my email. And also, as Dr. Teresa mentioned, if you have any questions on our study abroad in London, which we've done 3 times now, and we probably would have done it this semester, but of course, that's not happening. So we're hoping by next year, we'll have that back up and running. So, okay, glad you could all be here. I'm going to turn it back over to Dr. Teresa. Thanks.
Thanks, Dr. Barner. As Dr. Barner said, a school as small as NU comes with some advantages to it. One of them is that you have hands-on access to things like our production studio, which you might not have access to at a bigger school, or you might have to go through some red tape in order to have access to those things. You have access from the start here at NU. The other really good thing about being in a small communication studies program is that even though we have sort of 4 areas of concentration, you're not locked into anything from the get-go. So you have a lot of freedom to explore different avenues in communication to kind of find the right fit for you. You can do that through your coursework with no issue. We have a ton of room in our curriculum cards for you guys to take whatever electives sound interesting to you at the time. So you can get an idea of the breadth of communication studies through your coursework. But another way that you can kind of experiment with what aspects of communication studies you really like or gravitate to is through our student clubs and organizations. We have 4 of them: the Ridge Report, the PRSSN, the Niagara Wire, and Wnia Radio. The Ridge Report is our broadcast program. That's the one that if you're really interested in production and you want to spend some time in the studio, participating in the Ridge Report, which is designed as a news entertainment broadcast, would be a great fit for you. And Dr. Barner is the advisor for that club. The Public Relations Student Society of Niagara is overseen by Dr. Cirianni and Mike Friedman in the admissions office. And together they help students to work in marketing and PR for local organizations as well as for NU itself. So if you're interested in the more professional or organizational side of communication, if you can see yourself writing press releases or planning and executing events for local organizations around the area, PRSSN might be for you. I oversee, or I founded, and now Professor Josh Maloney, who's a local area journalist, oversees the Niagara Wire, which is our student newspaper. The Wire is very close to my heart. It was started 5 years ago when I was in my 2nd year here at NU by a group of students who simply wanted a voice on campus. The Niagara Wire has grown to become a biweekly publication, and with a full editorial staff and staff of writers. We publish in print form and online, and we cover not only campus news, but also area news and local and national politics and events as well. So the Wire is a great experience for students who love writing, or for students who might want to be future journalists, future technical writers, etc. And finally, Wnia Radio is overseen by me and by Dr. Cirianni, and that's our campus radio station. Wnia is a ton of fun. You can sign up for a time slot weekly, and you can have our studio, not the production studio that Dr. Barner was just in, but our radio studio, which is in Gallagher Center. And you can have the airwaves to yourself for an hour or 2 hours a week to play whatever music you would like to create your own talk radio program, to do a little bit of both. And so students really have a ball with WNIA. It's a real place for our music lovers to kind of share their musical passions, have theme shows like the Disney Hour, etc. And it's a place for students to develop kind of an on-air personality through hosting their own radio show. So WNIA is really a lot of fun. The students who are involved get really into it and are really passionate about it. So we have students come in, like my former student Madison, who is now studying journalism down in the CUNY system, who came in her first year and she was like, I want to be a journalist and I want to write for the New York Times. And so Madison stuck very much to a track that was devoted to journalism. She was the editor-in-chief of the Niagara Wire. She took all her journalism courses. She interned at NPR. That was her passion. That was her track. She knew what she wanted to do. But as Dr. Barner mentioned, we have so many other students that come in really not sure what aspect of communication is for them. And so we encourage them through coursework, through clubs, and through internships, which Dr. Cirianni is going to talk about now, to explore, to see what you're good at, to see what you like, and just as importantly, to see what you don't like. And we're there as faculty mentors every step of the way to help connect you to those resources and those opportunities to make sure that you get the most out of your communication studies major, so that when you leave, you have a really clear sense of what it is about the industry that you like and want to pursue. All right, Dr. Cirianni, on that note, why don't you talk about some internship opportunities?
I would love to talk about some internship possibilities, but first and foremost, let's talk about me a little bit.
Of course.
I'm Dr. Joe Cirianni. Hi everyone. I'm an associate professor in the department. I teach film and television courses. I've taught journalism courses also in the past. So like all of us in the program, a little bit of this, a little bit of that. I just love teaching in this program. I'm a local boy, so I, like Kelsey, I graduated from NCCC as well with an associate's in communication and media arts. I also have a degree from Buffalo State College. That's where I did my bachelor's. I did my master's and doctorate at University of Buffalo. I've also taught, before I got my full-time job at NU, I've taught in a variety of colleges in the area. And I'm just going to piggyback a little bit on what Dr. Barner, Dr. Teresa have already talked about a little bit. But in that, I have so much experience in the local academic field and within so many different institutions. I can honestly say that, nobody really, from my experience, gives students the attention and develops skills like we do at Niagara. I can honestly say that because of our small class sizes, because we're a relatively small department, we can really devote our time and our effort into shaping you into being the communication professional that you want to be. And in addition to our coursework, our club organizations, another way that we do this is through our internships. We don't require, bye Kelsey, thank you for joining us. We don't require an internship in our curriculum, but we strongly suggest it and promote it. Your internship is going to be your gateway to a job after graduation. We will develop you, we'll develop those skills for you inside the classroom. You can further do that in clubs and organizations, and then you can also take those skills, develop them further in internships. So we give you that well-rounded experience, and we really prepare you for what lies after ahead of you after graduation. So we have had students successfully complete internships in a variety of fields, in all of the fields that we promote in our department through various organizations. These are some of our most popular ones. Buffalo Bison's baseball. We've had a lot of students successfully complete that internship through promotion and marketing with the Bisons over the summer. We've had students gain positions with the Buffalo Niagara Film Commission. So if you're interested in film or television studies, that would be a great one for you. Entercom Radio, Pagula Sports, it's a really big one. We had a student do an internship with the Buffalo Sabres doing public relations, marketing, and advertising with the Sabres. We have a really great working relationship with Rich's Products, a local organization. And just to actually talk a little bit about our relationship with our local community, that's something that we really pride ourselves on as well. And that's also what you're going to get that advantage. You're going to get that advantage if you come to NU. We have a lot of working relationships with local organizations. I've had people from Niagara Falls Memorial Medical Center, Gilia. We've had people from Habitat, from Humanity come to us specifically and say, we want NU students interning with us because we have such a reputation within the community. So we strongly suggest that you acquire an internship. We give you the tools to successfully complete an internship, and we'll help you get one. I'm consistently promoting them. We have working relationships with Niagara Falls Public Frontier Publications. So in all of the fields that we promote in our department, there's going to be an internship within those fields, and we're going to prepare you to complete those internships and prepare you to obtain that job after graduation. So if you have any questions about internships or internships experience or anything like that, you can shoot me an email. I'll put my email in the chat box. And we're going to throw it to Dr. Tewksbury, I believe.
Hi, everybody. All right, yeah, fantastic. So I'm Dr. Doug Tewksbury. I've been at Niagara University since 2009. I did my graduate work at Penn State, and it's amazing that it's been 12 years already that I've been at this university. I thought that I'd talk a little bit about, we spent so much time talking about the really important things, making sure that you're prepared for industry and working or whatever it's going to be, making sure that you're having good experience while you're here. But I thought we'd also talk a little bit about some of the things of how we teach you how to think. I think that it's important to understand, you think about the changing media industry. Media changes so fast that if you are currently a senior, TikTok wasn't even invented when you were a freshman. I mean, it changes so quickly that we train people to learn how to do skills and adapt themselves, but we also teach them how to understand media, not just for their future jobs, but also just for future life. So, one of the things that we really emphasize in our department is critical thinking skills. So how do you understand how to make an argument, how to support an argument, how to provide evidence, and also how to evaluate other arguments. So not just in terms of something like, understanding what's on the news or in journalism or on social media, these very important things that we've clearly seen the need for in making sure that people understand how to critically think about the world around them. But also, given the social justice mission of our university as a Catholic Vincentian university, learning how to use media in order to improve the world in some form or another, in order to make it more just or equitable or fair or sustainable. So one of the things that, we have a lot of relationships between faculty and students. I mean, one of the nice things about having 4 faculty members in a department of 60 people is the classes are small and we get to know everybody. We know their first and last names, which again, going to Penn State, where the intro to media studies class that was taught there had 800 students in it. And here we regularly have about 20. So it's a much different model of education. We get to know our students really well. We understand their likes and dislikes, their professional and academic and scholarly and career and vocational needs. We meet students where they're at. And it's one of the nice things that we're able to do, especially in a department like this, is able to tailor the education to the student rather than have the student have to tailor themselves to the department or to the class along the way. One of the advantages of that is we often work with our students in their intellectual development on learning how to be a researcher and learning how to think about the world around them and to analyze their arguments. And these are valuable intellectual skills just for living, but also vocationally. You need to know how to think and you need to know how to write in order to do whatever job you're going to do, especially for the technologies that haven't even been invented yet, that will become normal in 2 or 3 or 10 years from now. Oftentimes when students come back, they talk about the value of learning how to think critically and the value of that they took in their media studies courses in our department, which is always a nice thing to hear. So all of our students will develop their own semester-long research project for their senior year, and many of our students do it earlier as well in other classes. We do a lot of independent studies with our students where they work one-on-one with a faculty member in just studying something they're interested in, which is a real advantage of a school like Niagara and a department like ours. So all students will do some sort of semester-long original research or creative project. Sometimes people make their own films. They'll make a documentary or short feature film. Sometimes they'll do public relations campaigns or other things. Many students write their own research projects where they'll interview people about how they're understanding representations of LGBT people in the media, or they'll do projects where they're doing original research projects on news and journalism and how it's covering something like Black Lives Matter, which some of our students are doing right now. Sometimes they'll do original research projects that will be on just things they're interested in, looking at representations of race or gender or class or something like that in Law and Order SVU or in shows like Stranger Things or things like that. They learn how to look at the world around them and how to ask questions. Many of our students go on to graduate schools. Just very recently, in the last couple of years, we've had students that are currently at Ohio University, Virginia Tech, NYU, University of Buffalo, Syracuse, lots of other, Penn State, lots of others as well. You know, the goal of all of it is, how do we teach our students how to be intellectually curious? That's something that you walk away from our program with that is going to stay with you for the rest of your life. It's something that benefits you in your personal and your professional career, and learning how to be a thinker and learning how to wonder at the world around you and to think about the role of inquiry. It's invaluable, and it's one of the things that we get in this department. So I'll stop there. Thanks everybody, and I'll put my contact info in the chat.
Awesome. Thank you guys so much. I think that this was super informative. We are now going to move to a little question and answer. If any of our students have any questions or they would like to ask anything to our professors that we have here, that would be awesome. One of the questions that I will ask is, what can one of you guys just tell me what your favorite class was that you've taught even in the past 2 semesters? Because I know you guys are always changing your classes. So just to sort of tell students maybe what your favorite class was.
Can I tell you the one that I'm most excited about that's coming up?
Yeah.
Which is,
oh yeah.
Yeah, I just proposed a new course that is that I just turned in today, which I'm very excited about, which is a brand new course. It's going to be on environmental humanities. It's going to be cross-listed between our department and the environmental sciences department. And we're going to be looking at how environmental issues and climate change are represented in film, on social media, on television, in literature. We'll be looking at gaming and how we're looking at environmental issues representing gaming, in music and graphic novels and other things. So I'm very excited about it. It's a cool course. I can't wait. So that's always a good sign. I hope my students like it too.
That is so exciting. Thank you for sharing. Does anyone else want to share?
I'll chime in if I can. I would say one of my favorite courses in the past couple of years would be the study abroad in the UK that we did. So mass media in the UK, which is a semester-long course where the students meet each week, and then at the end of the semester, there's like a 9 or 10 day trip to London. And again, I mentioned we've done it 3 times now, and it's just great. I mean, it's you know, it's the only kind of study abroad that I've ever done, and all the students who have done it, it's just kind of an eye-opening experience. We were able to visit the BBC. We were able to visit Warner Brothers Studios outside of London, and they have a whole Harry Potter exhibit there. We did some meetings at the Museum of Advertising, the CNN Bureau in London. We visited the British Board of Film Classification. I did a seminar. They explained how they rate films and how the film ratings in the UK are different than they are in the US. And so it's just a great experience, and we hope to do it again. So that would be one of my highlights, I think.
That's awesome. Thank you. We did have that I also too will just sort of put my own little 2 cents in, because I did not study abroad when I was at Niagara University, and I wish I did. So if I could go back in time and take a class just like that, I totally would. But I do want to just sort of jump into a question that we did just get, and I know a lot of you guys have already seen it. So if any of you would like to just comment on the question was, what is one major thing you think will change about the field in our time? That is from Matt.
I think that's a good question, Matt. I'm thinking a lot about how social media is going to change after the fallout of the past few years with the huge wave of disinformation that we've seen. So obviously we're at a point of reckoning for things like Facebook and Twitter. And we have, I think, some governmental intervention into the social media industry coming up on the horizon, or I guess stronger governmental intervention into those industries coming up. And so I'm really interested to see, sort of from a policy perspective, like, what are we going to do about disinformation on Facebook and Twitter? I mean, they're starting to do some self-regulation, but is it going to be enough? Or is government intervention going to become necessary? And I'm also really interested to see what your generation has to say about it, and how, you guys will change and develop and innovate to bring about sort of the next a social networking model or platform, or if you guys will reject the idea of social media altogether and return to sort of more traditional forms of connecting with one another. If there'll be some sort of social media connectivity burnout, especially, post-pandemic. And as you guys are maturing and entering the workforce and starting to become, media producers and innovators. So I'm really excited to kind of see what new technologies are developed, and to see kind of what the past couple of years spell for the future of social media platforms. So that's something I think is really interesting. Because I teach media law, I'm really interested in like the policy perspective of it, but I won't bore you with all that. So
That's awesome.
I think that's kind of cool.
Yeah.
It's such a good question though.
Yeah. And thanks, Doug, for your insight in the chat box as well. I think that's great.
Yeah, and I agree 100% with Dr. Tewksbury.
Dr. Tewksbury, he brings up two really good points. But to Dr. Tewksbury's first point, we're seeing this, importantly, not only on a global level, but on a local level too, access. And this pandemic finally, unfortunately it has to be this way, has opened up a lot of people's eyes to the lack of access that so many underprivileged families have for technology. Just hearing about, so just like on a personal level, my sister works in the school system, in the Niagara Falls school system, and just hearing about how many families don't have laptops, don't have internet access, don't have so many of the things that we take for granted. I think that, there's so much bad with this pandemic that this pandemic has brought, but hopefully there's some policy changes like Dr. Teresa brings up that are going to be implemented, that are going to address this issue of, as Dr. Tewksbury brought up, the global and the national digital divide. So great question.
Yeah.
Great question. Does anybody else have any questions? If not, that's okay too. I know sometimes you guys don't like to ask your questions, but I will just say that I think that this just really covers the surface of what the communications department really is all about, and what you guys can really dive into and get involved in. I know that I have a communications minor, so I got to take some classes with Dr. Tewksbury and I loved it. So I think that if you guys are interested in some more information, I know that everybody on here did put their contact information sort of in their chat box, and please utilize that. Please reach out to them or to us. And if you guys need anything else, we are definitely here for you. So thank you guys very much for joining, and for all of you guys for presenting. And hopefully we'll get to see you guys on campus soon.
Thank you guys so much. Please don't hesitate to reach out to any one of us with any questions at all. Thank you for joining us.
Yes. Thanks, guys. Have a great rest of your night. And if anyone wants to stay back and chat, I'll stay on here as well. So, but thank you very much, everybody.
Thank you. Good night, everyone.
Thanks. Good night.
Thanks, everybody. See ya.